There's a guy at your office. Not the smartest person in the room. Not the loudest. Not the one with the most experience or the best title. But somehow, every manager trusts him. Every colleague goes out of their way to help him. Strangers open up to him within minutes of meeting him. And he makes it look completely effortless. You've watched it happen. And some part of you, if you're honest, has wondered, what does he know that I don't? I'll tell you exactly what he knows. And it all comes from one book, written in 1936, that still outsells almost every business book published today. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Warren Buffett read it at 15, said it changed his life. Oprah called it one of the most important books she's ever read. And nearly 90 years after it was written, 30 million copies later, it's still sitting on the desks of CEOs, therapists, diplomats, and anyone who's serious about how they move through the world. Today, 8 lessons. The most powerful ones in the book. Plain language, real examples, and a clear task at the end of every single one. Let's get into it. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never face. The reason some relationships feel cold, distant, or stuck isn't bad luck. It's not that those people are difficult. It's not that life is unfair. It's specific, daily habits. Small patterns that repeat quietly, invisibly, until one day you look around and realize people have slowly pulled away from you. Carnegie identified 2 of the biggest ones. And the moment you see them, you cannot unsee them. Lesson 1. Never criticize. Never condemn. Never complain. Before you push back on this, hear it out fully. Carnegie spent years studying human behavior. He studied psychology. He studied history. He studied why some people inspired loyalty and others inspired resentment. And what he found was this. Criticism does not work. It never has. And it never will. Here's why. The moment you criticize someone, their brain doesn't shift into, how do I improve mode? It shifts into survival mode. It goes into self-protection. Their defenses rise. Their walls go up. And every bit of mental energy they had that you wanted them to spend on changing gets redirected to defending themselves and resenting you. You don't get improvement. You get resistance. Think about this scenario, because almost everyone has lived some version of it. Your coworker keeps making the same mistake on reports. You've mentioned it twice. The 3rd time it happens, you're tired. You're frustrated. You say, how many times do I have to explain this? This is careless. This is basic. What happens next? They feel attacked. They feel embarrassed. And even if they fix the mistake, something shifts between you. They don't think, my colleague really helped me grow today. They think, I hate working with this person. And they're now quietly counting down until they don't have to. You were right about the mistake. And you still lost. Now try this instead. Same mistake. Same frustration. But this time you say, hey, I noticed this came up again. I'm wondering if there's a step in the process that's unclear. Want to walk through it together? Same problem. Completely different outcome. One approach closes people. The other opens them. Here's your task, and this is a hard one, because the urge to criticize is almost automatic. Every time you feel the pull to criticize someone this week, pause. 5 full seconds. And ask yourself one question. Am I trying to help them? Or am I just trying to feel right? Most of the time, if you're honest, it's the second one. And that pause alone will change more relationships than you think. Lesson 2. Give real appreciation, not flattery. This is the flip side of criticism. And it's just as important, maybe more. Carnegie was crystal clear on this distinction, so pay attention. Flattery sounds like this. That was incredible. You're amazing. Best presentation I've ever seen. Genuine appreciation sounds like this. I noticed how patient you were with that difficult client this morning. You stayed completely calm when anyone else would have snapped. That takes real skill. One is vague. One is specific. One is automatic. One is observed. One is empty. One lands. People can detect flattery instantly. It doesn't feel good. It feels like being managed. Like someone wants something from you. Like you're being played. And even if they smile and say thank you, they don't actually believe you. But genuine appreciation, specific, real, sincere, does something different. It says, I was paying attention. I saw you. What you did mattered. And in a world where most people feel unseen, that is rare. That is powerful. That is unforgettable. Here's what I want you to do right now. Think of one person in your life. A partner, a parent, a colleague, a friend, someone who consistently does something, maybe something small, maybe something they've done so long it's become invisible that you have never actually told them you appreciate. Maybe your partner makes sure the car always has fuel before you drive anywhere. Maybe your colleague always responds to your emails within the hour. Maybe your friend always checks in after you've had a hard week, without being asked. Whatever it is, tell them. Today. Not tomorrow. Not this weekend. Today. And watch what happens to the energy between you. Okay, so you've stopped pushing people away. That's not nothing. For most people, just removing those two habits is already a transformation. But here's what nobody tells you. Stopping the damage is only half the equation. The other half, actually making people feel pulled toward you, feel comfortable around you, feel like they genuinely want to be in your presence, that's a different skill. And almost no one has cracked it. Carnegie's next 3 lessons are all about this. And together, they do something that most people spend their entire lives trying to figure out. They make people feel like you are the most interesting, most engaging person they've ever met, without you saying very much at all. Lesson 3. Be genuinely interested in other people. The word that matters in this lesson is genuinely. Not strategically. Not performatively. Genuinely. Because people can feel the difference, instantly, viscerally, between someone who is actually curious about them and someone who is just going through the motions. You know that feeling. You're in the middle of telling someone something real, something that matters to you, and you can see it. Their eyes drift slightly. They're nodding, but they're somewhere else. They're just waiting for you to stop talking so they can say their thing. That feeling, being tolerated instead of heard, is one of the loneliest feelings in human interaction. Don't be that person. Carnegie tells a story about a dinner party he attended. He was seated next to a botanist, a man who spent his life studying plants. Carnegie knew absolutely nothing about botany. Nothing. But instead of faking his way through small talk, he started asking real questions. How did you first get into this? What's the most surprising thing you've discovered? What does a plant actually experience? And he just listened. Genuinely curious. Not performing curiosity, actually curious. At the end of the evening, the botanist told the host that Carnegie was one of the most brilliant conversationalists he had ever encountered in his life. Carnegie barely spoke. He asked. He listened. And the other person walked away feeling fascinating because someone had finally treated them like they were. Here's your challenge starting today. In your very next conversation, ask at least 2 real follow-up questions before you talk about yourself. Not, oh cool. Real questions. How did that happen? What was that like for you? How long have you been doing that? Just 2. Most people won't do this consistently. The ones who do become unforgettable. Lesson 4. Remember that a person's name is the sweetest sound they know. This one sounds almost too simple. It isn't. I want you to think about a moment, and almost everyone has had this one, where you ran into someone you had only met once, maybe months ago. And they looked at you and said your name. Hey James. Good to see you again. Do you remember how that felt? Like you actually registered as a real, specific, individual person to them. Like out of every interaction they'd had, yours had stayed. Now think about the opposite. Someone you've met 3 or 4 times. And they still say, hey man, because they forgot your name. Or never bothered to learn it. That stings a little, doesn't it? That tiny gap between being remembered and being forgotten is the difference between connection and distance. I'll be honest with you. I used to be terrible at this. Someone would say their name and it was gone before they finished saying it, because I was already thinking about what I was going to say next. Then I started practicing something simple, and it changed my first impressions completely. Use their name twice. Once right when you meet them, "Really great to meet you, Sarah." And once before you leave, "Great talking to you, Sarah." That small repetition locks the name in your memory, and it makes them feel seen in a way that most interactions never do. Try it this week. Watch people's reactions. They almost always soften. Lesson 5. Be a good listener, and let people talk about themselves. We live in a world where everyone wants to be heard, and almost no one is willing to listen. Read that again. Because that gap, that enormous gap between people desperately craving to be heard and nobody actually listening, is your opportunity. If you can become a genuinely great listener, you become rare. You become someone people actively seek out. Someone they feel better around without quite knowing why. Because you gave them something almost no one else does: real, undivided attention. Carnegie said the easiest way to become a brilliant conversationalist is to not converse much at all. Ask people about their life. Ask what they're working on, what they're excited about, what's been weighing on them lately. And then, actually listen. Don't check your phone. Don't let your eyes drift. Don't start formulating your response while they're still talking. Just be there, completely. Think about the last time you came to someone with something real, not looking for advice, just needing to process, and they immediately launched into solutions or shared their own story or told you what you should do. It felt hollow, didn't it? Like they weren't really with you. Now think about the last time someone just said, "Tell me more about that," and meant it. How different that felt. Here's your task tonight. At dinner, with a friend, with anyone, ask them, "What's been on your mind lately?" And then don't speak for 60 full seconds. Just listen. Most people have never experienced someone sitting in silence just for them. They will not forget it. This is where things shift. Everything so far, not criticizing, showing appreciation, listening well, all of that is about how you make people feel. And that matters enormously. But now we're going deeper. This is about how you actually move people, how you change minds, how you influence decisions, how you get people, in work, in relationships, in life, to actually do what you're hoping they'll do. And here's why this part is uncomfortable for a lot of people. Because it requires you to let go of something most people grip too tightly: their own agenda, their own need to be right, their own desperate desire to win. If you can let go of that, what becomes possible is extraordinary. Lesson 6. Talk entirely in terms of what the other person wants. This is the core of every successful negotiation, every great sales conversation, every parent who actually gets through to their teenager, every leader who builds real buy-in instead of grudging compliance. Most people make the same mistake. They lead with what they want. "I need this done by Friday." "You need to study harder." "I think you should apply for this job." And the other person, even if they don't say it out loud, is thinking, "But why does that matter to me?" Here's the shift. Before any important conversation, ask yourself, what does this person actually care about? What are they hoping for? What are they afraid of? What are they working toward? And then, reframe your entire message around that. Here's a real example. You want your boss to approve a new idea, a process change you've been thinking about for months. You could say, "I think we should try this. It would make things more efficient." That's what you want. Or you could say, "I've been looking at where we lose the most time on this team, and I think I found something. If we adjust this one step in the process, I think we could save the team about 4 hours a week, which is around 200 hours a year. I ran some numbers. Want to take a look?" Same idea. Completely different entry point. Now it's not about your idea, it's about their problem. Before your next important conversation, write out what you want. Then ask, what does this person actually care about? And build your message around that. It takes 5 minutes. It changes everything. Lesson 7. Make people feel important and mean it. Carnegie called this the deepest craving of human nature. Not fame, not power, not wealth. Just this, the desire to feel significant. To feel like your presence matters. Like your opinion counts. like you are seen and respected by the people around you. And here is the heartbreaking reality. Most people go through entire days, sometimes entire weeks, without anyone genuinely making them feel that way. They do their work. They show up. They contribute. And it goes unacknowledged, unremarked, invisible. So when you do it, when you genuinely, specifically make someone feel important, you become unforgettable to them. Not because you flattered them, but because you saw them when almost no one else was looking. The most immediate way to do this in real life is simple. Find someone who is good at something, genuinely good, and ask for their real advice on it. Not fake advice. Not a question you already know the answer to. Real advice on something they'd actually know better than you. You've been doing this longer than I have. What would you do in this situation? I know you've navigated something like this before. How did you think about it? Watch what happens to people when you ask that. They sit up a little straighter. Something comes alive in them. Because you didn't just acknowledge that they exist, you acknowledged that they have something worth knowing. Your task, find one person today. Ask them something real. And then actually listen to what they tell you. Lesson 8. The only way to win an argument is to avoid it. I know. This one lands hard. Because everything in us wants to fight back. Wants to defend. Wants to prove we're right. We've been taught, implicitly, culturally, that the person who wins the argument wins. That holding your ground is strength. That backing down is weakness. Carnegie spent years observing what actually happens in arguments. And what he found was stark and unambiguous. You cannot win an argument. Even when you win, you lose. Because even if you completely dismantle the other person's logic, even if you expose every flaw in their reasoning and they're forced to admit you're right, they don't walk away thinking, wow, that person really helped me see something. They walk away feeling humiliated. And a person who feels humiliated doesn't become your ally. They become someone who is quietly, sometimes obsessively, waiting for a chance to prove you wrong. You won the argument, and you lost the relationship, or the deal, or the trust, or the team. Here's what actually works. When someone pushes back on you, before you defend yourself, stop. Find the merit in what they said. Genuinely look for it. Because almost always, there is something in there that's fair. Say this, you know, that's actually a fair point. I hadn't thought about it from that angle. That one sentence, said sincerely, disarms almost anyone. Because now they feel respected. And a person who feels respected is a person who is actually open to hearing you. You didn't surrender. You didn't abandon your position. You just stopped needing to win, and because of that, you actually moved the conversation forward. This week, the next time someone challenges your opinion or picks a fight, try this instead of defending. Help me understand your thinking. And mean it. Most arguments dissolve completely when one person genuinely stops needing to win. Dale Carnegie wrote this book in 1936. He's been dead for over 70 years. But the reason you're watching this video, the reason 30 million people have bought this book and keep buying it, is because deep down, every human being is quietly terrified of the same thing. Being invisible. Going through life and not really mattering to the people around you. Working alongside people who don't truly respect you. Living with people who don't truly see you. Talking to people who are never really listening. These 8 lessons are how you stop being invisible. Not by being louder. Not by being smarter. Not by forcing people to notice you. But by learning, actually learning, to see people. To hear them. To make them feel like they matter. Because here's what Carnegie understood almost a century ago, and what every field of modern psychology has since confirmed. Human beings are not primarily rational creatures. We are emotional creatures who want, more than almost anything else, to feel seen, heard, and valued. The people who understand that, who actually live it, not just know it, those are the people who build careers and relationships and lives that genuinely mean something. 8 lessons. You now know them. Here's what I want you to do before you scroll. Comment the number, just the number, of the lesson that hit you hardest. Not the title. Just the number. I read every single comment. And if you know someone, a friend, a partner, a colleague, who's been struggling in conversations lately, Who feels like people don't really hear them? Who feels like they're not taken seriously at work or at home? Send them this video. Don't write a message. Don't explain it. Just send it. The video will say what you don't need to.